It is my honor and privilege to introduce our next speaker. I've gotten to be a friend of Stan's online. We've never met, and I think you were a member of the Delaware Club, which was online. You said it was years before you even met them, but it shows what this can do for us and seeing, face to face. But Dr. Stanley Jones is a professor of aerospace engineering and mechanics, currently University of Alabama. You say, how could he do that when he lives in Delaware? Well, he left Tuscaloosa some years ago and has been continuing to teach online, these online courses, engineering mechanics courses. He's a James Cudworth Professor of Aerospace Engineering and Mechanics, Emeritus. And he's had a varied career academically. Prior to this, he was at the University of Kentucky, a couple of years at the Air Force Academy. Very well received, many academic appointments. In the academic business, we'd call him somebody very productive. That means he has numerous conference papers, textbooks, prepared refereed journal articles, abstracts, reviews, all of those, something from the 60s. I went back to the earliest one from, I think, 1967, and I couldn't even understand the title, so I won't even try to do you justice with that, Stanley. But well, I guess I got to tell a funny Stanley story. You get new people in administration, you're working remotely, they get some people in and they have to show their stuff. And, they said, how do we know you're qualified? We don't have any of your records, this and this and this and this and this. And he's trying to go on to tell them up and this, up to, then finally says, go look up the textbook for one of my courses that I've taught. And they did. Oh, you're the author. I think, did that work or did you even have to do more jumping around, Stan?
I think they agreed that I was qualified to teach.
Yeah. I love those stories. But the name of, I looked up, this is a 2020 book, I think. It said Nonlinear Partial Differential Equations for Engineers. Now, I know what differential equations are, but I don't know about the nonlinear and the partial. Dave Hunt, you might, but I don't know, but some of the rest of us. But it sounds like a good book. And then that wasn't enough. You had to write another, what do you call it, your COVID book in 2020.
I've written 4.
Yeah.
Well, I've co-authored 4.
Okay.
Well, that's enough.
That's good. Well, we're not going to have calculus on stamps. Tonight it's going to be Christmas seals, but like many of us, Stanley started early and was collecting, worldwide country collections and then some specializing. And when you need the number 1s and the 2s and the varieties, they get very pricey. We call it the glass ceiling, or you get priced out, and so we moved on to revenues. Same situation, they got pricey. He did stick with the battleship revenues when he can find them. And you've read those articles in our club newsletter, which Scott has been editing. But he found Christmas seals, and he's had those for quite a while, both US and worldwide, and found that these are undervalued. So you can get a lot of philatelic research in without the great aspect of cost. But he's found out that the Christmas seals have all the same collecting attributes as those of us who collect the postage stamps and covers. You have the countries, foreign, US, domestic, production issues, errors, freaks, and oddities, politics certainly around and how those came about. Some great stories around some of these stamps, and the seals themselves and postal history can both be found in these types of collections. He's done this the last 50 years, and this is what he's going to share tonight. And so please join me tonight and welcome Dr. Stanley Jones. And the question I have, Stanley, do you want questions during or after? You want people to wait?
They can ask during. That's
yeah,
okay.
You can tell you're a professor. You're ready to have.
I'm used to that. I'm used to that.
All righty. So what I'll do,
I can handle an interruption.
Good. I will share the screen, and you'll just tell me when you want to progress. Okay. So
all right.
Here you go.
Well, Paul, that was a very generous introduction.
My pleasure.
I got priced out of the market and started collecting revenue stamps and started collecting Christmas seals in 1948.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing some of that ever since, which is a lot of years. Um, when I was still on the campus at the University of Alabama, we were living in Tuscaloosa. Somebody got the bright idea that we should have a, a stamp club in Tuscaloosa because there was a very successful one in Birmingham, but it was 60 miles away. So in order to go to any meeting, you'd have to drive 120 miles to and from. So what this person did, and he was a faculty member at the university, is he sent out a blanket email.
Stanley, you're muted. You got muted somehow. Yeah, you want to unmute.
Am I unmuted?
Yep. Can you see the screen?
He sent out a blanket email to everybody on the campus, and I responded to it. I thought, natural fit for me. And I volunteered to join, and I got a phone call from the person who was organizing this. And he asked me what I collected. And I said, well, I collect revenue stamps and I collect Christmas seals. And he said, that's philatelic junk. And you wouldn't be welcome in our club. And I said, well, okay, if you don't want me, I don't want to join. So I didn't join. And I have had that, I've accepted that moniker ever since. I'm a philatelic junkman. I collect all kinds of stuff. And in particular, I collect Christmas seals. And I'm going to share with you tonight some of my philatelic junk. And these people who regard that as philatelic junk, I think they'd be shocked to learn just exactly what some of this is worth, because some of it is very scarce and very desirable. So we're going to talk about specifically Christmas seals. There's a wide variety of charity stamps that have been used, and I have some charity stamps that date back into the 1890s. So they've been trying to use this as a tool to raise money for various causes even before Christmas seals emerged. And I'm going to talk about that, specifically the Christmas seals. And then I'm going to talk about some topical Christmas seal interests and local and foreign seals. And I'd like to make an introduction to a sister society of the Christmas Seal and Charity Stamp Society, of which I'm a member. And their focus is Christmas stamps and Christmas cancels. Okay, Paul. The first Christmas seal was designed by a Danish postal clerk in 1904. His name was Einar Hobel. And this is the first Christmas seal. And it was done in 1904. Go to the next one, Paul. And here is a cover, a remarkable cover that I found as I was traveling to a meeting in Toronto, Canada, and I stopped off at a stamp dealer and I purchased this cover from him. This has two 1904 seals, and they're tied to the cover. You can see the bottom left seal tied clearly. The other one by the postage stamp is also tied. Now that's the desirable way to collect Christmas seals. It's the only way to assert genuine usage, is to have it tied and dated. And that is the logical way to do it.
Dan, why do you think they hand canceled both of them? They didn't know that they were not stamps?
They didn't know what they were. I mean, when this emerged, nobody knew what these were or what you were doing or what you were supporting. So nobody knew what to do with this. So the postal clerk saw it and just canceled everything. In case I missed something, I'll just cancel all these things. And that's what was done. Go to the next one, Paul. Emily Bissell got wind of the success of the 1904 Christmas seal, and she designed a seal to be used in the US. And this is her seal. It's a 1907 Type 1. The seals themselves were called Christmas stamps, and they were sold for a penny apiece. And that's the actual on-booth envelope in which they put the Christmas stamps. And that was very confusing to people because it naturally led to them thinking, well, these are stamps, so I can use them for postage. And a lot of them were passed for postage. And I'm going to show you some things later on that are connected to that. There's a very rare cover. The cover has a 1907 Christmas seal, and it was circulated in Philadelphia. The stamps, these Christmas stamps were sold. Go ahead, Paul. These Christmas stamps were sold in the Wilmington Post Office. She made a deal with the postmaster. He was reluctant to do that because he thought it would just take up space in the office and not accomplish anything, but she went out. She was persistent. And this is the actual newspaper picture of a girl in a nurse's uniform selling Christmas stamps, December 7th, 1907. And that I got that photograph from one of our club members in the Brandywine Club. Go ahead, Paul. Then this seemed to be a method for raising money for tuberculosis care and research. And it seemed to be successful. And what she did is she wanted to continue the campaign. So she designed a second seal. And the second seal has Merry Christmas moved inside of the holly leaves there and Happy New Year underneath. So she extended the sale. But this seal was used only for a very short period of time. It's very difficult to find any of them that were genuinely used. I found this one in an antique store. It's a New Year's card mailed on December 31st, 1907. And it's mailed to Miss Kitty Tally. And I think that's the Tally of Tallyville. Tallyville, Delaware. It's very hard to find those. What she did next is that really, the 1907 campaign and the introduction of Christmas seals in this country actually was a local effort. And a lot of people regard those seals as locals rather than the national seals that followed. For 1908, Emily Bissell asked Howard Pyle, who was part of the artist colony in Chadsford, Pennsylvania. He was an illustrator, he was an author, he was a painter. She asked him to design a seal. And this seal was going to be used for, it was going to be a national campaign. And this is the first national Christmas seal, 1908. This design was donated by Howard Pyle and was circulated around the country to the different campaigns, local campaigns across the country. And as a result of this, the seal design received some modest changes. It was printed on different papers. It was perforated differently, and it was even rouletted. This is a collecting interest in itself. 1908. This, you could try to collect 1908 Christmas seals and never reach the bottom. There are that many of them. And I'm going to show you some of the more difficult ones. This is a second design, and this one has the frame has rounded corners as opposed to square corners, which the Type 1 did. And if you go ahead now, I'll show you. Now, here are some of the rare varieties that appeared as a result of being this design being circulated nationally. These are two extremely rare seals. The top seal is perforated 12 by 14. And not very many of those survive. The seal on the bottom is rouletted and was used on the West Coast. Both of these are very difficult to find, and I was lucky to find them tied to cards, which is the ideal way to collect them. Go ahead, Paul. 1908 was also the first year that booklet paints were used. And here's the 1908 booklet pane. This one is a pane of 6. There was another booklet which was had panes of 3. It's scarcer than this one. This is the only one that I've found. Go ahead, Paul. 1909 was another national issue. It was the first year where a local society overprinted the seal to use locally in New Hampshire. And also it shows on the bottom cover, it shows the confusion that postal clerks had with Christmas seals. This one was used for postage. The card was canceled and it was delivered. So this is the confusion that Christmas seals presented to the postal clerks. And our postal clerks, even today, when I bring things in there and I put them on, they say, well, what is that anyway? Is that a stamp? No, it's a charity seal, but sometimes they were passed for postage, and that's an example in 1909 of one that was. Go ahead, Paul. Here's 1910, very clean seal. There aren't very many varieties of it. What I have heard reported is somebody discovered one of these seals that was perforated one way and rouletted the other. I've never seen that, but that was reported as a variety. Other than that, I don't think there are any other varieties of 1910. 1911, now this is a year where a collecting interest emerges. In 1911, they issued 2 types. Type 1 was the design you see at the top left. Type 2 is a modest change in the design. And Type 3 is an experiment that wasn't very successful. They had started using coils in that and the Postal Service started using coils in that generation. So what the Christmas Seal Society people wanted to do was to see whether or not they could use coils. So Type 3 emerged, and it was supposed to be distributed from vending machines. And it wasn't very successful. And Type 3 is much rarer and much harder to find than the book value that Scott gives it. I looked these up before I came. I have a very old 10-year-old Scott Specialized catalog. Type 1 was booking for 50. Type 2 was booking for 120. and type 3 was only booking for 75. That was 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Trying to find type 3 as a multiple is difficult. Take a look at the next slide. I found a coil pair probably 50 years ago. And I just stumbled across it, and a dealer had it, and I bought it from him. These are very hard to find. Not very many of the coil variety survived, and it was an unsuccessful effort, and they didn't do it again. So this is the only time that a coil was issued by the Red Cross and the Tuberculosis Society. Then, next one, Paul. There are a number of varieties of these that were privately prepared. Here's one. This is known as type 4. And only 30 to 40 copies of this seal are known to exist. It's rouletted. I saw it at auction a few years ago. It was tied to the front of a card along with the stamp. The seal was tied to it. The bidding got completely out of hand and out of my range, and I just got out. I think it ultimately brought about $2,000. That was tied. Mine is not tied. Nevertheless, it's a valuable seal. Only 30 to 40 copies are known to exist. Now, here's another one of their experiments for 1911. This is another coil. This is a coil pair. And there was an article where this was included in Scott Stamp News by Ken Lawrence in December 2024. And he reported this. This is arguably the scarcest of all stamp varieties. Only one roll of these has ever been discovered. And so they are really hard to find. Go ahead, Paul. 1912 is a very clean year. The seals have a very clean design. I'm showing a cover with tied 1912. They're getting hard to find. Go to the next one, Paul. Here's a cover that I found years ago. Somebody put 5 1912 seals on, and only one of them got tied. But somebody invested 5 of them on one card, and I managed to acquire it. There's another one, a very clean cancel. Not much to be said about it. It's just a very collectible card. Go ahead, Paul.
Stanley, were these were all postcards. Were many Christmas cards sent in those days, and are there stamps on traditional covers?
Mostly you find them on Christmas cards. Okay. That was the method that was used to send Christmas greetings. They're hard to find used on an envelope. Much more difficult. Mm-hmm. I saw one reported where a 1907 type 2 was tied to an envelope. Mm-hmm. But again, that's really rare. That's very rare. Mostly you see them on Christmas cards. Mm-hmm. Here is some 1912 Christmas seal memorabilia. I'm not sure how I acquired this. It's in pretty bad shape, but it shows you what they were using for Christmas seal advertisements to try to sell the seals. Then you get to another astonishing year, 1913. Type 1, Type 2, Type 3. There is a Type 4. I don't own that. This seal is a local seal used by the Chicago Tuberculosis Institute. where they borrowed the design, changed it to use for themselves, and that was circulated in Chicago. The actual seals that were released, that were used, were types 2 and 3. And type 2 has the red cross with a green circle around it. And type 3, they removed the green circle. And then what you see at the top is type 1. This is one of the rarest of all Christmas seals. It is believed that only one sheet of these ever existed. And they're they hardly ever come on the market. I bought it at auction, used about, I don't know, 40 years ago, maybe. I don't know how it ever got out. It should be an essay, because it was an unadopted design. So I guess they were serious about the design, and somebody wanted to see it perforated to see what the sheet would look like, and must have walked out with that sheet of 100. There is a block of 4 that exists. A dealer on the West Coast has a block of 4 of type 1. So there are only a possibility of 96 others in existence. That's one of them. Very, very rare. Not as rare as the 1911 type 5, but very, very rare. Okay, Paul, go ahead. Here's an example of what you can do in an auction where the seller doesn't know what he's selling and the buyer doesn't know what he's buying. I acquired that 1914 essay because the auctioneer didn't know what just put 1914 Christmas seals. And I threw a bid in on it, as we all do, and I won the lot for next to nothing. And when I got it home, I discovered that's not a 1914 seal, that's a 1914 essay. Much larger, and the picture's different, everything's different about it, and it was unadopted. And that's just a very good used copy of a 1914 Christmas seal there. 1915, you can see quality control wasn't very good in those days, and you can see that there is a distinct color variation between the seals on the left. That is the actual release seal. The seal on the right was some kind of color variation in the die that got out, and it's clearly different. And then what's down on the bottom is an error. This seal is imperforate vertically, and that's a horizontal pair, with the seal imperforate vertically, and it's an error. Go ahead. This is interesting. This is the 1916 Christmas seal, and what's under the block of 4 is what's called a window card. What they did is they mailed out the seals and asked you to donate, and sometimes you did and sometimes you didn't. So they would come around and ask you if you have donated for the seals and would you like to donate. Well, you put this in the window and it tells the person who's coming around trying to collect that you've already bought them. So they sent this back as a receipt that you could put in the window, and they wouldn't stop at your house. That's the only window card I ever found, is this 1916. There are others. Go ahead, Paul. This is 1917. Very clean design. And the designers of all these seals are listed in the Scott catalog. They will tell you who designed the seal. And there's a strip of three 1917s where the one on the bottom is tied. But then you get to a really interesting year next, Paul. 1918. 1918, they really cut way back on Christmas seals because there was a competing Red Cross effort for soldiers returning in World War I. And so what happened is they only released these in booklet paint. However, there were sheets that somehow, I don't know what happened to them, but there were full sheets. You cannot find, or extremely difficult to find, any seal that's perforated on four sides. Because you can see if it came from a booklet paint, it's either going to be perforated on 2 or 3 sides and always have a straight edge, or you're going to have a rouletting and perforations horizontally. But you can't find a seal, or it's very, 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 very hard to find. I have seen some. They're regarded as essays. But it's almost impossible to find one that's perforated on 4 sides. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I'm thinking with Armistice Day on November 11th, 1918, these things had to have been done well before the war was over, design and distribution plans and things like that. And the war might not have been over in November, and then they'd have a whole different situation on their hands.
And I just told you that you can't find them with 4 sides perforated. Well, this has 4 sides perforated, but it's an essay. And it's no longer listed. It is 1918 type 3. And it's a very scarce essay.
There seems to be some differences.
Yeah. Oh, there are differences. Yeah. The 2 booklet panes are different. And the essay, 1918 essay for what they're calling WX23 is different from both of those. But if you go to the next one, this is the competing charity. This was what the Red Cross was focusing its attention on that year, and raising money to assist soldiers returning from World War I. And that is the competing society, or the competing charity. Go ahead, Paul.
Those things shown on the bottom, are those actual labels, or are they like advertisements, or
I think
business cards?
Some of them are perforated and some of them are imperf. I've seen both varieties. I can't tell you exactly what this means, but I know one thing: if you cut that off, forget it. Nobody likes it anymore. You got to have this tab on it with the explanation written for it to be worth anything.
Yeah.
Now you get to the last year of the Red Cross appearing on a Christmas seal. This is 1919. This is the last year that the Red Cross appeared on a seal, and the first year that the double-barred cross of Lorraine, the symbol of American Lung Association, appeared on the seal. What that did is it changed the direction completely, because the Red Cross was no longer involved, and seals after 19 are very common. It's very easy to get a complete collection of seals. Maybe 1920 is a little bit hard, but certainly all the rest of them are very easy to get. They're very easy to acquire. You can acquire a complete collection of Christmas seals after 1920 very easily. So what do you collect? What is it that people collect as far as Christmas seal collecting goes after 1919? Show the next one, Paul. Well, this is an example of the sort of thing that's a very desirable collectible. These are two airmail, well, they're airmail related. This one on the top is mailed from Quahog, North Carolina on the 25th anniversary of Powered Flight. And he put a 1928 Christmas seal on it. The cover below is the first day of issue for the commemoratives, the commemorative set that was issued to honor the Wright brothers in 1928. It also has a tied Christmas seal. So that's the kind of thing that becomes very collectible after 1919. Go ahead, Paul. Here's another example of it. And what makes those two covers, the 1928 covers, so interesting and difficult is the Postal Service got tired of the postal clerks trying to distinguish Christmas seals from every other kind of stamp. And they were trying to enforce a regulation where you couldn't put the seal on the mailing side of the card. So in the late 20s through the early 30s, it's very difficult to find Christmas seals that are tied to a card because the Postal Service was forbidding you to put them on the mailing side. And I actually have seen cards, Christmas cards, where the seal was just right on the picture of the card. Somebody put the seal there. Of course, it wasn't canceled, but nevertheless, that's what the Postal Service was advocating. They relaxed that regulation in the early 30s, and you began to see covers again where the seal was clearly canceled and tied to the cover. This is an event cover from a ship launching event. Go ahead, Paul. And here's one. This is very desirable. This cover was mailed in 1944 and has the Christmas seals from 41, 42, 43, and 44, all on the same cover, all tied, and the cover is cached. And you begin to see a transition away from Christmas cards and toward envelopes then to mail Christmas cards. And this is a very collectible cover. Then this is a topical interest. A lot of people collect what are called first day covers. Now, these first day covers are not first day covers in the sense that we normally think of a first day cover, which is first day of issue. And then you'll get a special cancel that'll say first day of issue. These first day covers are the covers that were canceled in Santa Claus, Indiana, on the first day of the national campaign. This is the official launching date of the national campaign. It's not the earliest known usage. I'll show you something on the next slide. Take, for example, these. Here's the first day cover on November 15th, 1968. The cover above it is canceled on October 31st, 1968. The same block they were released in different designs. They took the block of 4 put that. That is the earliest known usage in 1968 of a Christmas seal. But it differs completely from what we would normally accept as a first day cover, because it isn't the first day that the seal was used. It's the official launching of the seal campaign, and that the actual release dates of all these are in the hands of the local committees. That's why you could find a cover like the one I'm showing you that's canceled on Halloween, and the first day cover is November 15th. So they differ considerably, but that's in the hands of the local committee, and that's one difference between collecting first day covers that come from Santa Claus, Indiana, and first day covers as we know them for postage stamps. Go ahead, Paul. I kind of developed this as a topical interest. If you want a really slow topical interest, this is about as slow as it gets. I've only ever been able to find 9 of these over the years. These are all Christmas seals that have been used as postage and have been canceled. And you can see 3 covers there clearly went through the mail. The cover on the upper right ended up, I think, in the dead letter office because it didn't have an adequate address, and it didn't have postage. So 2 postage due stamps were put on it. I'm not exactly sure how I ended up with it. I found a dealer, and he remembered that I was interested in this, and he sold it to me. But I don't know how it ever got out of the dead letter office. And I find the one on the upper left really interesting. Some kid wanted to write a letter to Santa Claus. So he addresses it Santa Claus, North Pole, USA, and he uses a Christmas seal from '82 to mail it. And it got canceled. So I'm not sure where it went, but somehow or other, I saw it and acquired it. Go ahead, Paul. Here's another topical interest that Christmas seal collectors have. Mailed on Christmas Day. All these covers were mailed on Christmas Day. The upper left cover is a very famous Christmas seal collector, A.W. Dunning. I'm pretty sure that he mailed that in Wilmington, North Carolina, and mailed it to himself. And really looks suspiciously like that. All the others are mailed on Christmas Day. And go ahead, I'll show you 4 more of them. These are all mailed on Christmas Day. And look at the cover on the bottom right. It's mailed from Honolulu, Hawaii. It's mailed on Christmas Day. And the seals are tied with a center tape. So that's another way you could tie a seal, is you tie it with a center tape. And here's another A.W. Dunning card that I suspect he mailed to himself. And the upper left block of 16 has a slogan seal in it. They started to try to jazz up the Christmas seal sheets, and they started to put slogan seals in there. Well, this is a block of 16 around one of the slogan seals for 1937. Okay, Paul. A lot of people collect Emily Bissell memorabilia. I would say that Bob Swed, who's in our Brandywine Club, is really an expert at collecting Emily Bissell. I got most of this Emily Bissell memorabilia from him. This is the Emily Bissell stamp. Go ahead, Paul. Here's an Emily Bissell first day cover. Traditional first day cover. And somebody put the first two Christmas seals, type 1 and type 2, and it was canceled on the first day of issue. There exists a cover that has both of these, that has both type 1 and type 2 mailed in 1907 to somewhere in Europe. And it's the only reported usage of both of them on the same cover, and they were both tied. It was a phenomenal find. Very valuable. How about the next one? Here's an Emily Bissell first day cover. Somebody, I'm not sure why they did this, but there's a cachet that's got the 1928 seal, and they put the 28 seal right next to Emily Bissell and canceled on the first day of issue. That's a really nice find that I had.
Stanley, is the cachet embossed? You know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll look at it again and get back to you, but I don't think it is embossed.
It's a very nice cachet. Yeah.
It's a
But
very nice cachet.
Yeah, you want
And
to.
somebody asked me one time, well, what is the connection with Emily Bissell in 1928? I really don't think there is one, other than that's just a nice seal that somebody
Might have been their
likes in
favorite seal.
1928.
Yep.
And here's a really interesting Emily Bissell cover. First, it's got 6 seals on it. 3 of them are locals. 3 of them are nationals. 5 of them are tied. And the person who designed the cachet did not realize that the seal that he put there under her picture was not the first seal, it was the second one. It's the type 2. And he said that's the first Christmas seal. It's the second Christmas seal. Okay. And here's another one. This one has a hand-drawn cachet. My daughter and son-in-law gave me this for Christmas. I refused. I asked them to bid on it in an auction on eBay, and I gave up. I said, no, it isn't worth that. I'm not gonna continue to bid on it. Well, they said, oh no, this is perfect. He doesn't want to buy it, but we're going to buy it from him. We're having a hard time finding things for him anyway, so we'll just buy this for him. And that was a Christmas gift. Okay, Paul. Here's an interesting year. There are a lot of people who just collect one year. And this is an interesting year because 1927 was right in the middle of the Postal Service's banning the use of seals on the mailing side of a car to recover. And here are 2 that I've managed to find. Those are the only 2 that I've ever found for 1927, because it's right dead in the middle of the time that they put this ban out and tried to enforce it. But this is something even more interesting on the next slide. What you're looking at in the blocks on the bottom are printer's waste. Now, how does anybody acquire printer's waste? All the others, there's a proof pair, there's a progressive color proof set, a lot of people like that. That's collectible for seals. The seals themselves aren't worth very much, but the progressive proof set is. And then these. Now, there are 9 of them there. I actually have another whole page of them. I don't know how this stuff ever got out into circulation and why there should be so much of it in 1927, but I have 2 pages of it. And what does somebody do? They stand outside the print shop and go through the garbage after it's emptied into the garbage can and find these blocks? I don't know. But that is printer's waste. And it's a very interesting collectible for 1927. There's much less of it for other years, but 27, I've got 2 pages of it. Go ahead, Paul. And there's some advertising from 1927. This is clearly 1927, even though it doesn't have 1927 on it. It's pretty clear that's the 1927 design. Okay, Paul. 1929, another year, right toward the end of the 1920s, and the Postal Service was still trying to ban the use of seals on the mailing side of cards. And here's a card at the top there, which is advertising airmail stamps and using airmail. And they put the seal at the bottom left. I guess they figured it wouldn't get canceled. Of course it did. And these 2 are very hard to find. And then the next, here are again proofs that came out. I'm not exactly sure how these got out, but this is a very famous seal that is called, obviously, the Yellow Jack, where they reversed the colors to see what it looked like. The adopted design is the one on the left, bottom left, and the Yellow Jacket was one they were experimenting with and did not adopt, yet the proof got out. And they were serious about it because the proof has been perforated. I don't think you'd be very serious about it if you weren't you weren't really thinking about adopting it, it wouldn't be perforated. How about the next one? This is a very interesting year as people collect different years. This is a year where the seal campaign employed 4 slogan seals. And the way a lot of people collect these is they don't collect the sheet, they collect the blocks with the slogan seals at the center. These are 4 different slogan seals in 1937. And there's something else about 1937 that I'm going to show you in the next slide. Look at the variations of blue. As you go from the left down to the bottom, you can see that there are dramatic variations in the color. And if you go further, the next one, you see even more. Look at the blue that's on the seal that's canceled on that envelope. And then here's the progressive color proof set for 1937, where you end up with this color blue in the background, and then this one, which is completely different, and then finally a deeper blue here, but not as deep as that. There are dramatic variations in color, which make 1937 a very collectible year. Okay, Paul. And here's another example of how you can collect seals. This is the 1939 seal with a block of 4 slogan seals in the center surrounded by the seal itself. Okay, Paul. And errors. People collect errors. Here is an error that I acquired. It's a printing error. And this is the 1951 Christmas seal. And the block on the left shows what the seal should look like. The block on the right, what happened is you can see that Santa Claus's glasses got pushed up onto his forehead, and it makes it look like he has 4 eyes. I had some duplicates of this, and I decided that what I would do is put them up for auction in the seal auction, figuring seal collectors would be interested. They were not interested. It did not sell, and they sent it back to me, and I still have it. But this is an example of another collectible area. There are a lot of printing errors. Okay, Paul. And then if you get burned out on Christmas seal collecting on the national level, there's always Christmas seal collecting on the local level. And some of it is really pretty interesting. This is a complete collection of New Orleans tuberculosis hospital seals, where they started issuing them in 1924 and ended in 1940. That's the complete collection of New Orleans tuberculosis hospital. When you collect locals, and if you're out of the area, it's really hard to find genuine used seals. If you take a look at the next ones, here are 2 that I managed to acquire, one at auction and one I traded for, the one at the top. And those are the only 2 cards with tied New Orleans seals that I've ever seen. They're hard to find. And here's another local, the Federation of Women's Clubs. The reason I put this in there is there is a seal in this set of Federation of Women's Clubs, and they're all different states. You can see them: Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Pennsylvania. The Women's Club seal from Pennsylvania, it is believed that only 1 or 2 copies of it now exist. So if you ever run across that, you've struck it rich. Go ahead. I've never seen one of these tied on a cover. These, I would probably not have mounted them this way. These are the Chattanooga Tuberculosis Sanitarium, Pine Breeze, which they're supporting a sanitarium in Chattanooga for treating tuberculosis. The first 2 are very hard to find. That's 1912 and 1913. And then for some reason, maybe they felt like they weren't getting the return they needed. They stopped them, and then they started them again with these 2 small seals in the center of the page on the left. The complete collection, if you go to the next page, goes on. These are all of them. I only ever found one thing affiliated with that, and that's that card up at the top where Pine Breeze Seal Campaign sent out a reminder that they've sent you seals and you haven't returned any money. That's one of those. And what this was, I cropped this off somebody in the Christmas Seal and Charity Stamp Society bought an auction lot, and that cover was in that auction lot. And that's a really phenomenal cover, 1945. And here are some foreign seals. If you get burned out on trying to collect locals, which that's an easy burnout because they're really hard to find and things are really slow. You can collect foreign seals. Here's an accumulation of seals from India. Again, they're National Tuberculosis Association, double-barred cross of Lorraine on all of these. How about the next one, Paul? Foreign seals, Japan releases them in miniature sheets. So they're very collectible in miniature sheets. And I have a number of these. I can't show you everything because we're already up to slide 59. So you got to draw a line somewhere on this. And those miniature sheets are very collectible, and they have a slogan seal in the middle of it. Go ahead, Paul. Seals from Canada. Canada borrowed our seal design. 1927, 1928, and you need two because you can't issue anything in just one language. You have to, in Canada, you have to issue it in both languages. It's got to be in French and in English. It can't be one or the other without offending somebody. So this is a collection of foreign seals that I picked up a long time ago. It carries you all the way up to about World War II. All of these are seals that have English and one seal with French. Go ahead, Paul. And here's another. And you noticed on that, the Canadians started to use our seal design for their seals. And then they adopted their own seal design. And then could you go back, Paul? Oh, wait a minute, I'm looking at the wrong thing. We went forward. I thought there were 2 pages of Canada. Yeah, they adopted our seal design, and this is all our seal design down here. But if you go back and you look at the first page of Canada, you'll see they adopted their own seal design. After borrowing ours, this is our 1930 seal, and then they made their own. And this is their, those Canadian seals, that's their own seal design. But then look what happens later. They go back and they start to use our seal design again. And you can see that's our 47 seal design. That's our 42 seal design, all the way up here into the 50s. And then they start to break again and print their own seals. I'm not exactly sure why things are that way, but that's what happened. Go ahead to the next one. These are Australia. National NAPTA, National Association for the Prevention of Tuberculosis in Australia is what that means. And they printed all their own. They didn't borrow anything from us. Those are all their own. If you go to the next one, you'll see more of them here. These are all their own design. I haven't seen many covers with Australian seals on them, but I'm still looking. Now, this is interesting here because in Denmark, the postal clerk made the first Christmas seal in 1904. But it was followed immediately by Sweden. And Sweden issues its own seals. And this is the first part of a collection of Swedish seals beginning in 1904. Here's an interesting 1905 seal used in 1907. Somebody made a really bad mistake soaking that off the cover, but I've made that mistake myself, so I guess it's forgivable. But in any event, the Swedes and followed almost immediately, and yet you never hear very much about their seals, but a seal from 1904. I acquired this in a collection that I bought after I retired the first time. In 2013, Barb and I went to Germany, and I taught in a technical institute for one semester in Augsburg, Germany. And that was very close to Munich, and you could take the train to Munich, and there was stamp dealers there. And I bought a collection of Danish seals from them. And sometime, if somebody wants to see something about Danish seals, I've just about got everything for Denmark. The next one, no, Paul. And here is another organization called the Christmas Seal and Charity Stamp Society. This is a sister organization. It's called the Christmas Philatelic Club, and they collect Christmas stamps. And here are examples of Christmas stamps. And the natural question is, how long have Christmas stamps been around? If you look at the next slide, well, this is two more of them, sorry. This is two more covers where mailed at the North Pole, first day of issue. Try the next one. Another one that's also very collectible, first day of issue with a Christmas stamp. These are first day covers. And the Christmas Stamp Society collects those. And I'm still looking for the one I was referring to. Go to the next one, Paul. Oh. Another Christmas stamp, first day of issue. Sorry. How about these? This is the first Christmas stamp. And here is a Christmas stamp from that's canceled, Santa Claus, Indiana, and also the seals issued, and that's on the first day of the seal campaign. That's what that first day cover is at the top. The second one is the actual first day of issue of the first Christmas stamp in this country in 1962. And it was released with a lot of drama, because there were a lot of people who first didn't want to celebrate a Christmas holiday and didn't want to commemorate it by issuing a Christmas stamp. And then there were people of other faiths who didn't think that it was fair that the Christmas stamps were favoring Christians as opposed to any of the other religions that there were. And so there was a lot of protest regarding that. But this survived, and Christmas stamps have been issued every year since. How about the last one? The very first Christmas stamp. This is regarded by Christmas stamp collectors as the first Christmas stamp because it has Xmas 1898. But it isn't commemorating Christmas. It's commemorating a conference in London that happened to be held on Christmas Day for establishing the 1 penny rate for the whole empire. And these two stamps come from Canada, and it's the first reference to Christmas. Okay. Well, they have the Christmas Stamp Society has its own newsletter, and this is a newsletter, one of them that I have, and the reason I have it is I published a paper in that on earliest known usage, and it was published in the Yule Log, which is their newsletter. Go ahead, Paul. And they like this. This is a Christmas cancel. One day every year for 4 hours, the Odessa Post Office will offer a special Christmas cancel. And this is sponsored by the Women's Club of Odessa, which I'm expected to give a presentation to on Christmas seals. And they designed the Christmas cancel, and it's on Saturday morning from 8 to 12, and then the post office closes. So it's only 4 hours when this cancel is available. So I found out about it on December 4th, 2021, and I went down and got this cancel. Go ahead, Paul.
That's it.
That's it. Okay.
Number 72. Yes, thank
72.
Is everybody still awake?
My
Okay,
wife asked me, is everybody still awake?
Anybody have questions for Stan?
Yeah, if I can.
Yeah, Harold Hand will have a question. He's a big Christmas seal collector.
I apologize for not acknowledging when you said my name earlier, Paul, but I was having trouble finding the unmute button.
Oh, I know what you mean. Well, thing is, Harold, I know where you live, so.
I have one from every year of the U.S. Christmas seals, but I certainly knew there were lots of varieties over the years, and I really appreciate seeing all of these things. It's really neat.
Well, I appreciate that, Harold. It takes a lot of effort to dig around in this stuff. And I started digging around in it in 1948 and early 50s. And at that time, some of this was plentiful enough that you could find it. Now, I don't know where you find it.
Now it's hard to come by.
Especially cards. I'm always looking for cards with tied seals. They seem to have disappeared from dealer stocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, like you're saying, it has every aspect of traditional postage stamp collection. Even in rarity, but the prices aren't that. There's hard to get, but the prices aren't like stamps.
Especially there was an article by John Hotchner, and where he mentioned the 1911 Type 3 and how undervalued it was. And at that time, I think it was valued at $50. My 10-year-old catalog has it valued at $75. And when you consider that maybe only one roll of them ever survived, there aren't many of them out there.
Yeah.
It was just dumb luck that I actually got a coil pair. They're very hard to find in multiples.
Yeah. I've enjoyed John Hotzner's, writing, because I think he has a couple favorite years, one of them being 1934, the big one with the blue sky, a little church or farmhouse, and all the differences over the years that he's pointed out in the printing and secret marks and so on. I mean, like you're saying, with so many of these issues, you could just collect that and it'd be a lifetime, attempt.
And I didn't mention the printer's marks, but they're one seal on each sheet has a printer's mark. And there are some people who just collect that, just that, the seal with that one printer's mark.
Yeah.
And that's really difficult.
Yeah, question.
Yeah, Paul, I just sent you an email. maybe he would be interested in looking at. It's Tom. Bowman.
Okay. Let me see.
They're proofs from Finland.
See if I can open it up. Hold on. I might lose you, but we'll give it a shot.
Mhm.
In the meantime, I can say that I happen to know that there's going to be a lot of this going up for auction sometime soon through Dutch Country.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll keep my eyes open for that.
You know, all it really takes is somebody who is a master collector of this stuff, and you'll find a lot of stuff. Now I'm downloading this for Tom.
I know someone who's a master collector of everything.
Mhm. Yeah. Are you married to him?
No.
Okay, you're lucky. Trying to download this. Okay. Here it comes. See if I can call it up. Okay. I'll make a screenshot of this. Okay. The PowerPoint. Getting there.
Yeah, I know. I just remembered I had them, and I figured I better
Yeah.
show them.
I'm gonna see if I can get it up now. Hold on. Slide. Blank. Okay.
As they
I've
say,
got a
all
little of
the,
everything, so I have all the Scandinavian countries followed immediately and started issuing seals, so I've got a little bit of everything from there.
Okay. I got it just about ready. So you turn this off. I'll do this. Close this. Go back to Zoom.
Mhm.
I think you can't see me, can you?
I can see you.
Okay, well, let me see what I can get the screen share in. Stop sharing. I'm gonna take stands off. Okay. Now see if I can find Tom's. Here we go.
Oh, yeah,
Can you see it now?
yeah, I can see it.
Can you see Tom's?
Yeah, I can see
Looks
it.
like a progressive color proof set.
Yep, there we go.
Yes.
If I can enlarge it a
Yeah,
little
they're
bit.
very nice. Yeah,
From Finland, it's top row going down, except the last row has 2 years. First
Wait a
year
minute.
is 1949. Second year is 1950, 52, 53, 56, and 57.
very
Nice.
nice. Very nice.
Now, do
Oh,
you
I got
collect these,
him.
or did you just come across these? Are you a
They-
Christmas
I
collector?
I got an auction lot one time, and these were stuffed in with some of my island stamps, Tristan da Cunha and St. Helena, and it was stuffed in there. It's like somebody forgot they were there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I just
I found
routed them
things
out.
like that the same way.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
just thought you'd enjoy seeing it.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
The fact that I didn't lose the meeting for all of us is even a better situation. Okay. I'll stop this one. We'll go back to the group. Questions for Stanley again, folks?
Well, thank you very much for letting me.
Yes, let's give him a Lancaster
present.
cheer. Really enjoyed having you, and hope you'll come back again. I think you have one set up with a lot of foreign stamps. I'd like to see in Denmark, and
Yeah, well, I've certainly got a lot of battleships to write about, so
yeah,
we got that on the agenda.
that's been really good. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, thing for show and tell. This is where we miss Charlie, you know, he's. Okay, I have one thing to show you. Let's see. Okay, you know, when we talk about stamps and covers and each having a little story, you know, I collect stamp shows on covers, show covers, that type of thing. And Doug Kiefer sent me this week, and I just really liked it. Nice addition to my collection. You have the stamps, not related, but you know, period 24-cent rate. But you have the Mountjoy cancel like we have for our Lancaster cancel, and a lot of stamp shows will use a area of history from that particular area. York was really good about that for many years, the different industries that they had. And this is a Cedar Hill female seminary. And inside was the insert, a little bit of history, and I did a little bit more history, and I'm just getting started. But this started in 1832 in Mountjoy, this little school, and it grew. By 1860, it had 1,200 female students from 12 states. Many of them were for the South, and when the Civil War started, they had to leave. They left, and the school just kind of went into decline and never really came back. Somebody bought the school later, tried it again, and it was used as a for somebody's home and business and things like that, but never really came back as a school. And I don't know, they tore it down or burnt down, but they gave the location at the time south of Little Chickies Creek, between the trolley line and the main road, which I'm thinking is, you know, 230. And I'm getting on my Mountjoy maps and seeing if I can kind of locate where it is and get a closer look and see how close I can get. So when you find a cover like this, you know, it has a little bit of a, you know, personal meaning, because I lived in Mountjoy for 10 years, 1984, Wisconsin, to come Pennsylvania, 40 and a half resident of the state. And a lot of, you know, interesting history. You think of Mountjoy, this is a little town, you know, E-town, so forth. But they had people, they had stories, you know, and it's hard to beat. And in many cases, it's the stamp clubs which keep some of these memories alive. I think in '72, Mountjoy started Historical Association. So there is actually a repository and archive for a lot of materials like this. They wrote a book about the seminary, which is available. And so that part of the history won't die. Thing is, we have to hopefully get a younger generation with an interest in history, an interest in collection, an interest in their past and where they came from, and we'll be really good to go.